Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is John Brenneman. I'm the president here at MOAA Vacations, joined today by our good friend Tim Birch, Atlas Ocean Voyages. We have a lot to cover today, so going to go ahead and get started. I do like to tell everybody up front, we are recording this webinar. So this evening you will get an email which will include a link to this webinar if you'd like to review it. We did start right at the top of the hour. If Tim or I say something that you think you might want to revisit, just make a note at what time it is. And then when you get the webinar, which will be about an hour long, if it's 35 minutes in, if you don't want to watch that first 35 minutes, it should help you to fast forward to right where you want to go. Real quick, before we get started, I always like to talk a little bit about MOAA Vacations, kind of what makes us unique. I think most of the people who've signed up have been at a webinar previously, so I'm going to do this real quick today. These are the four things we kind of talk about that make us unique. Service, we are and continue to be the only travel agency in the country that does travel on a satisfaction guaranteed basis. That means basically what it says. If you have a problem, issue, concern, either before or during your trip, you reach out to us. In almost every case, you're going to talk to me directly, and then I reach out to my friends in the travel industry, like Tim. Tim and I get it resolved. Typically, we try to have it resolved to your satisfaction within 48 hours. I would say in the overwhelming majority of the cases, we are able to get it done that quickly. We do have the guaranteed lowest price. We also have a free amenity program. Atlas does participate in this. You can book any Atlas cruise that you'd like, any destination they go as a MOAA member in recognition for your past and continued service. You'll receive $100 per person onboard credit. That applies to not only MOAA members or people sharing your cabin, it actually applies to anyone who travels with you. So if you bring a friend, a neighbor, if you bring a family member and you say purchase 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter how many cabins you purchase, because you are a MOAA member, everyone in your stateroom or anyone traveling with you will get that MOAA exclusive amenity. So when we say we have the guaranteed lowest price, we actually have a value that exceeds what you can get from going to Atlas directly or any other travel agency with this exclusive amenity that we have. We do have that with 26, I think, vendors that we have that are participating in this MOAA exclusive amenity program. So I want to thank Tim and everybody at Atlas for participating in that. And then the last thing is kind of what we're going to talk about today, which is the group opportunities. It's your opportunity to travel with your fellow MOAA members, not only from your local area or your local chapter, from all across the country. And I can tell you that from everyone who goes on these, it is such a highlight to share this travel experience with what I like to call friends you've never met before. Today, we're going to talk about a couple of MOAA signature groups. And I always kind of refer to these MOAA signature groups as it's a standard group that's on steroids. And by that, I mean everything you get in a standard group. So if we have a group set up with Atlas, you're going to have a discount in the price. You're going to have expanded amenities. And I'll get to that when we kind of get to these groups. And you have the ability to travel with your fellow MOAA members. But the signature groups have a little bit more. We always have one or two MOAA leadership, MOAA staff who go on these cruises. It's a great opportunity. When we kind of came up with this idea of signature groups, those of you who may currently get our newsletter and read the March issue, I kind of talked about how the whole concept of signature groups came about in 2018. But one of the things that we thought it would be great to have MOAA leadership on board when we did the very first one, but really get great feedback from members when they go on this, is the opportunity to talk to someone in MOAA leadership, maybe share your ideas for the association, but more often than that, people ask questions about what the association is working for. They are on the Hill fighting for military personnel of all grades and all ranks, but people really love that opportunity. So something to consider. They are pretty much all inclusive, as all inclusive as we can make them. One of the things that we do that I thought was mentioned on the slide, I noticed it's not here, is it's also someone from MOAA Vacations will escort that group. I did 3 of them last year, actually, and I am going to be on the Greek Isles ones we're going to talk about in a little bit. That's actually August of this year. I will be on that cruise. I am there for one reason and one reason only, and that's to make sure you have as much fun as possible. If you've been on a signature group or a group that we escort here at MOAA Vacations, you're going to know exactly what I talk about. Literally, I am there. I have a desk set up in the lobby. So any issues, concerns, anything like that, you come up, you grab me, and I'm there to make sure you have as much fun as possible. We always have MOAA exclusive events. We'll have for sure a welcome reception, a farewell reception, and then depending on the itinerary and our ability to do so, we'd like to add exclusive events as well. Family and friends are invited. I mentioned earlier, if you go on an Atlas group, that you can bring your neighbors, your friends, your family, or whatever. This extends to signature groups as well. A lot of times when we talk about these MOAA signature groups, there's a belief, I think, from some people that they're only for MOAA members. They're actually for MOAA members and anyone that comes with them. So if your neighbor, for example, wants to do Greek Isles and you're talking to him about this great Atlas Greek Isles yacht cruise that we got going on, he can come as long as you go. So it's restricted to MOAA members and their guests, I guess, is the easiest way to say that. So your neighbor, your friends, your relatives, if they're not MOAA members, can only go if they go with you. And then the final thing we always talk about is they are rare opportunities. We are only doing 3 signature groups in 2025. We're only doing 2 in 2026. And we've actually started talking now about what we're going to do in 2027. I think I put this in a newsletter a couple of months ago, but if you ever have suggestions and say, you guys should do this itinerary, be it a cruise or a tour. For example, this year we have a tour, Australia, New Zealand. We have a ocean cruise, which is on the Atlas yacht, and we have a river cruise, which is on Uniworld, which is Burgundy and Provence. We'll get to that in just a second. But if you have an idea, feel free to share it. You can either let your cruise consultant know, or you can drop me an email and let me know. We're really in that kind of process right now where we put our ideas together and then we take them to MOAA, and then together we kind of figure out what's going to be. So here is, oh, wrong way, Tim. Right? Or are these out of order? Next one.
No. Got it.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So real quick, I was just going to go through the list of the signature groups for 2025 and 2026. Australia, New Zealand's closed. It's actually going in May. I guess if somebody really wanted to go, we could reach out to Colette and see if you get added. But a 16-night Australia, New Zealand within 2 months, pretty much we consider everybody who wants to go on that one's on it. So we do have the Atlas Greek Isles yacht cruise that's going in August. I think there's only like 8 or 9 staterooms left, but we do have a little bit of room if you want to go. As I mentioned, I will personally be escorting that. Mike Tyrell, who I know a lot of you talk to, who's the vice president here, isn't actually going to be on the sailing, but Mike and I will actually be in Athens and be on the ship, and we'll greet everybody when you come on board. So you'll meet Mike, but then Mike actually stays in Athens, because the way we kind of do that is the biggest concern we always have on groups or any trip like that is if someone's flight is delayed or their luggage is lost. So by having me on the ship and having another staffer, in this case, Mike Tyrell, being in Athens, if someone's flight's delayed or their luggage gets delayed or whatever that case is, even when we sail away from Athens, Mike will still be in Athens for a couple of days in case any of those issues arise. So on behalf of Mike and myself, we'd love to see you in Athens this summer. Burgundy Provence, that's Uniworld. That's who we use for all of our river cruises. I will actually be escorting this one as well. And the MOAA leadership that's going to be on board is Lieutenant General Brian Kelly, who's MOAA's president and CEO. So a fantastic opportunity. Once again, the 2025 ones, there's not a lot of space left. But if you want to go, give us a call. We'll see what we can get for you. Okay, 2026, highlights of Eastern Europe. It is a Uniworld river cruise. I think it's about a third, 40% full. It's obviously more than a year away, but it's filling up fairly quickly. And then Western Europe yacht cruise, that is going to be the focus of today's conversation with Tim, is we're going to kind of go through, not only for those of you who are not familiar with Atlas and what yacht cruising is, we know from experience that MOAA members in general like smaller ships, and literally the Atlas ships are phenomenal. If you've heard me talk about this before, I was fortunate enough to attend a travel industry event last fall. There was about 50 travel agents and about 30 cruise lines and tour companies on it. It's kind of an annual event where agency owners like myself have an opportunity to interact face to face with that many different vendors in 1 week. Um, but it's not just fun, and the cruise was a lot of fun. But when we talk about that satisfaction guarantee, part of the way we can offer that is these relationships that I have with these executives at all these cruise lines and tour companies, that if anybody has a problem, I can reach out to. Who, for example, on that particular sailing, Kathy Kuzma, who is a vice president at Atlas, was on board, so I had the opportunity to spend several evenings with her and build that relationship. And so, excellent. We'll get to that. I had one more thing I wanted to say about the ships, and I know Tim's going to talk about this more. But for those who've been on a river cruise before, when we do the river cruises, they have about 75 staterooms, and there's 3 decks and the square footage. The Atlas ships are more like a river cruise ship than an ocean ship because they are a yacht. It just has 5 decks, but it only has 92 staterooms. So it is about twice the size of a river cruise ship, but it only has 25% more staterooms, actually 20% more staterooms, depending on the river cruise ship. And that additional space allows them to have 2 lounges. They have actually a showroom. They have a spa. They have multiple dining options. So it has that small ship feel. They have elevators. I know I said this in the last one, but literally everybody on board was talking about, the only people who are really using the elevators were people who had mobility issues, which is why it's important that they have the elevators. But you're always like 1 deck away, it seems. You're either 1 deck up for the lounge or 1 deck down for dining. It's such an intimate ship, and it's the perfect size for what we're doing at these signature groups, because we don't see ever wanting to go with a group that's larger than 200 people. I think even on a longer cruise, like if it was 9 days or 10 days or whatever it would be, if you had many more than 200 people, I think you'd get off that sailing and not feel as though you met everyone. So it's kind of the perfect size for that. Okay, so real quick, I know this was in the email invitation, so a lot of you might have seen this, but one of the other things we found, and the very first signature group we did was June of 2019, which was Burgundy and Provence, which is Normandy and Paris and Normandy for the 75th anniversary of the D-Day landings. About half the people who went on that cruise did like a pre or a post, and we saw that as we were doing those. So we're trying to more and more recognize the fact that if you fly to Europe, it's not only the 8 hours or whatever it is on the plane. It's also the cost, a couple of grand if you're flying coach, $5,000 per person if you're flying business. So you're going to that time and expenditure to get to Europe. A lot of people want to extend that. So we've had great success with that. So we are now trying to offer pre's and posts when we can on the signature cruises. To be clear, these pre's and posts are not signature groups, they're just groups. So whereas on the Greek Isles cruise, we have the entire ship. So everyone on that ship will be a MOAA member or a guest of MOAA member. On the pre's and the posts, we just have a group. So for example, we look at the Greek Isles in August of this year. We just recently announced this, but there is a 12-night Barcelona to Athens cruise. People always ask prices. I can tell you that the lead-in price for that which is, leading prices on cruising is going to be on Atlas, it's considered an AO, but it is an inside stateroom, is $4,999. Excuse me, it's $4,500. The Greece cruise, that 7-night cruise, is $3,849, because people always say, what's the pricing? So that's the lead-in pricing, and then from there they have balconies that have walkout balconies. They have balconies that are Juliet balconies, which, by the way, Tim will probably talk about that. I personally preferred it when I was on board, because if you're not familiar, those are the Tim, do you have the picture of me on this presentation?
I do have that
Okay,
picture.
you'll see it. So basically, you have floor-to-ceiling windows, and the top half comes down, and you can literally lean over it like a balcony. But that they're larger because they're in the rear of the ship. They're Juliet balconies. On the front of the ship, they are going to be the step-out balcony. So if you have a step-out balcony that's like 4 feet-ish, I guess, to step out, if you're in a Juliet balcony, your stateroom is basically 4 or 5 feet longer. So just an option, and then suite. So obviously the price is going to vary depending on what you're on. Okay. So, and then we're talking today primarily about the October 2026 Western Europe cruise. That cruise we're going to talk about is Dublin to Porto. It's 9 nights, Dublin to Porto. Prices start at $49.99. But we have both a pre and a post. The pre is on Atlas. It is a 10-night Reykjavik to Dublin. So if you did the back-to-back, you'd actually have a 19-night cruise from Reykjavik to Porto. And if you don't know, Reykjavik is a much easier flight. It's about halfway to Europe. So instead of, 7-8 hours to get to Dublin, you're talking about a 4-hour flight into Reykjavik. So there's that opportunity. If I didn't mention it, the prices on that one starts at $54.99. And if you go to the websites, we have websites on both these signature groups I'm talking about today. You can literally see the price for all the stateroom categories. You can actually see the price for both double occupancy and single occupancy, because we do know that there's a lot of solo travelers in MOAA. So we do have a discounted price for both double and single occupancy. And then since we end in Porto, I talk about people making suggestions. In 2022, we did a signature group on Uniworld, which was a Douro River cruise. Was very popular. For those who don't know, the size of the river cruise ships are based on the size of the locks, because the ships have to go through the locks. So different rivers have different size locks. On the Douro River, those ships have 50 staterooms. So they're much smaller ships. But anyway, so this is a back-to-back opportunity. But to be clear, on the Reykjavik to Dublin cruise, you could literally stay in the exact same stateroom. So it would be like one contiguous 19-night cruise. This is on a different vendor. So you would, if you took this option, you would sail from Dublin to Porto. And then in Porto, you'd get off the ship, and then you would be transferred to the Uniworld ship, where you do the 7-night Douro River cruise. The reason I brought that up is a lot of people were not traveling in 2022. That was just coming out of COVID. For those of you who remember COVID, I'm sure everybody does. And we did that in 2022. Every year since then, we've had people mention, are you going to do Douro River again? Are you going to do Douro River again? It was fabulously received. It's a fantastic cruise. It's that one's $58.99 for the 7-night cruise. A couple of reasons for that, primarily the fact that it's such a smaller ship. So instead of, when we talk about Burgundy Provence, which we have going this September, I think it has 78 staterooms on that ship. This one, as you can tell, is obviously considerably smaller. So those are the back-to-back options. One thing else I was going to mention is it shows that the Athens Dubrovnik cruise is sold out. To give you an idea of how those groups would work, is we have 20 staterooms sold on that. So if it's sold out, so it's too late to do it, but just seeing how that would work. So those 40 people, 39, I think one of them is a single, those 39 people will be on a 7-night cruise where they will meet everyone who is on that sailing. And what we'll do is we'll actually have a special event one of the evenings, just so everybody can kind of do a meet and greet, because when everyone else gets off the ship in Athens, you're going to stay on the ship, stay in your exact same stateroom, and spend 9 more nights together with those people. And I can tell you, on a ship with 180 people, a group of 39 people, you're going to run into people you know. You're going to get on that cruise or stay on that ship, and everywhere you go on that ship, you're going to see people that you know because you've already been on one cruise with them. So we're really excited about that. I think the people that are on that are going to are really going to enjoy it. So as I said, don't typically do this, but now that we're really kind of trying to offer these options, I think for a lot of people, flying all the way to Dublin for a 9-night cruise, people are always looking. And of course, I know that a lot of you have, family members who may currently be serving in Europe, or your places you want to see, or people which is great. But for those people who are flying over and want more than a 7-night Greek Isles cruise or a 9-night Western Caribbean cruise, we want to offer those possibilities to extend that trip and continue to share that with your fellow MOAA members. So I know that was a lot that I went through relatively quickly, but I wanted to share with that everybody. So I think I kind of covered all that. I'm going to turn it over to Tim. Tim is going to talk about Atlas, what yacht cruising is. It's a fantastic product. And then he's literally going to go through day to day that Dublin to Porto cruise, so you can kind of get a feel for how that cruise is going to flow. And then when Tim is done with that, Tim and I are going to stay and do a Q&A and answer all of your questions. I'm actually going to be going through those Q&As while Tim's doing his presentation. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, if you don't see the little menu, if you take your cursor or whatever, iPad, your finger or whatever at the bottom, it should pop up a little menu. You see a little box with a question mark in it. It says Q&A. Just drop your questions in there. I will be answering them during Tim's presentation. If it's a question that I think everybody will be interested in, which is most of the questions we receive, Tim and I will revisit those at the end, and we'll basically stay till all your questions are answered. So before I turn it over to Tim, I just want to say I hope that you can join us on a signature group. If you've not been on one, they are easily the most popular, highest rated trips that we do. People who go on them absolutely love them. If you just stop and think about what it's going to be like to get on, say, this Greek Isles cruise, and there's going to be 170, 180 people on there who are all fellow MOAA members who have the same background. And it's not just the camaraderie. One of the things that we've learned when we've done this is the respect and consideration that MOAA members have for their fellow MOAA members is something that you can actually feel when you're on this cruise. If you've traveled a lot like I have, we've all been on these trips where there's people that are inconsiderate, they're rude, they're selfish or whatever it is on these trips. And it's just annoying that you're like, oh my God, I'm going to have to be on this ship with these people for the next 7 to 10 days. If you've never experienced that, you're a luckier person than most of it. But what you find is since you're all MOAA members, you all have this shared background, you're all officers and gentlemen. And so I think, we wouldn't have that issue anyway, but it is literally something you can tell is the way everyone just helps everyone else. It is literally just one more perk to these signature groups. So if you've never been on one, I hope you can join us on one of these Atlas signature groups. Just a heads up, I say this all the time. If you go on one, you're going to be addicted. We have people that go on a signature group every year. They went in 2019, 2020, 2022, 3, 4. In fact, we have people that go on multiple a year. So buyer beware, but you really owe it to yourself to try one of these if you've never tried one before. Okay. I talked a little bit longer than I anticipated, but I had a lot that I went over. So Tim, turning it over to you, tell us about Atlas, and then we'd love to hear more about the Western Europe cruise.
Well, thank you so much, John. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I've known John for a gazillion years, and
3 decades.
yeah, 3 decades. And you know, Atlas we're a small expedition company, and John had approached me and our executive team about a year ago and talked about the Greek island cruise that he had just talked about, and he came to us, and I've known John for a long time, and he said, he could sell this ship out. And I told our executive team in Florida, I said, you know what? I've worked with John for years, and MOAA is an amazing organization, and he'll do it. There is a few skeptics, okay, whatever, but at the end of the day, um, we basically have maybe
Yeah.
four or five cabins left. He did what he said he was going to do. He's always done that. And the reason I bring that up um, is twofold. John also mentioned about the extensions, doing a pre or a post or doing a back to back. And it makes so much sense that with the Greek island cruise that we're doing this year, we're doing a pre-cruise. I mean, so and he has probably 20 some, 30 some people on that cruise too. So, um, you know, so I'm probably telling you something you already know, but great organization, and John and his team and Mike and his team, really, really great to work with. And, so we're looking at 26 already.
Yeah.
And again, they came to us early this year, and we put it together, and we got a great itinerary for you for 2026. And then soon, I'm sure we're going to be talking about 2027. But let me talk about Atlas Ocean Voyages. I've been in the cruise business for close to 30 years, mostly big ship. And I joined Atlas a few years back. And the reason I did this is because, again, I've been big ship cruising for a long time, but I really loved their vision. I loved what they were talking about. I love the hardware, the ships, I mean, everything about it. And I got to tell you, we are just killing it in our particular segment of the industry. So again, as I mentioned early on, we are a small, intimate yachting expedition company, and I'll kind of get into what expedition, what I mean by when I talk about expedition. So I'm really here to introduce you all to Atlas Ocean Voyages, what our value proposition is, and our inclusions that John has negotiated with us. Always does. We're doing the World Voyager as the vessel that we're looking at for next year, and talk a little bit about our Epicurean expeditions. And again, he had also talked about the 25 sailing. So I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about where else we go, because again, John and Mike and their team, if you want to go to Iceland, or if you want to go to Greenland, or if you want to go to Antarctica or Patagonia, the Falklands, or whatever, we go there, we can take care of you. And of course, once you talk to John and his team, they'll be more than happy to help you. So we have some great itineraries. So we pretty much, I do get a lot of questions about North America, what we'll be saying in Alaska, whatever. It's not going to happen as far as Alaska goes. We're primarily focused on these particular destinations, and hopefully down the road, when we get additional builds. Right now we have 3 ships in our fleet. Once we get additional builds, I can imagine that we'll be going to hopefully Australia, New Zealand, some of those different areas. But this is kind of our wheelhouse right now. Um, so I said a little bit about expeditions. What is the term expedition mean? It's a journey with a purpose, particularly of in-depth exploration and discovery. A lot of folks think that when we talk about expedition, all we're talking about is polar, but that's just not true. For some it is, but for us, we do polar expeditions, which is Antarctica, the Arctic, Greenland, Patagonia, the Falklands. Um, Fantastic itineraries. I've been to Antarctica last year. It's an amazing place. Great experience. And then what we've done also is we've brought in a different slant on an expedition. So we're doing what we call Epicurean expeditions. These are more focused on food and wine, culinary, things of that nature, doing very well, and primarily in the Mediterranean. And then we have our cultural expeditions, which focus a little bit in the Caribbean, but Iceland, Northern Europe, South America, and transoceanic. So at the end of the day, you've got a great uh, a number of itineraries and destinations that you could go to with Atlas Ocean Voyages. So our value proposition, or what I like to consider, is what I describe as our pillars, our 3 pillars. We're very, very destination focused. Once you sail on this ship, you'll find out what I mean by that, because the ships are smaller. We're able to navigate in certain areas that a lot of other vessels cannot go. They're intimate yachts. The oldest yacht I have is the Navigator, which she's about 3.5, almost 4 years old. The newest yacht is the Voyager, which we're talking about for next year. But these are intimate, absolutely beautiful, beautiful yachts. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the deck plans and things of that nature, but also the service. You know, again, to John's point, we have 190 guests on board. And guess what? Our service level is incredible. 1-to-1 guest to staff ratio. So you will be pampered like no tomorrow. Again, having been in this industry for a gazillion years, I've had great crew, great service. There's something about our team on board is just stands out, absolutely stands out. So our service is absolutely fantastic. And again, mostly 1-to-1 guest to staff ratio. So the great thing about sailing with Atlas Ocean Voyages is pretty much we're always included. There are certain destinations where we'll do free cultural immersions, but we do have some shore excursions that you would have to pay for. But other than that, we're primarily almost all inclusive. We have free dining venues with ever-changing menus, so they're not set menus. Unlimited beverages, fine wine, spirits, craft beers. I don't have to go through the whole list, but these are all also replenished in your stateroom daily if you wish. Our open bars and lounges. And again, we do have 24-hour bar service with special canapes that are served into your cabin. Specialty coffees. We do offer a really cool program. It's an afternoon high tea, which is held up in the Dome Lounge, and you'll see the Dome Lounge. Just a great. A lot of people think high tea, a little fluff, but it's just a great experience, and it happens around 3:30 in the afternoon. We do have, again, I mentioned the coffees, champagne. L'Occitane is our bath amenities. They're really high. They're awesome. They actually manage our spa facilities. Another great thing about it is prepaid gratuities are included. And then again, we do reusable water bottles. Now, if you happen to choose one of our suites, which we have 10 suites, and those are usually the first to go, we do offer butler service in our suites. So Epicurean expeditions, like I talked about, a little bit about culinary experiences. We have an outdoor grill called Jasper Outdoor Grill. We do culinary presentations, cooking demonstrations, and things of that nature. Just a great experience. As I mentioned before, we'll be traveling on the World Voyager. And the best thing about my fleet is the fact that all three of my vessels are identical. The only thing that changes, quite honestly, is the decor within the inside of the vessels. Beautiful wines, 10,000 gross registered tons. I'm not sure if that means anything to anybody, but very easy to navigate through. As John mentioned early on, the stairs are pretty much the way everybody goes. Just to give you an example, my wife and I sailed from Venice to Athens last year. We were in the dining room. It got a little chilly, so I had to go up and get her shawl or whatever you call it. And, I literally ordered something, and then I went up to get it. I literally was back at that table like within a minute and a half. So they're very easy to navigate, and I'll walk you through a little bit of the deck plan, and you'll kind of get a sense and an idea. But again, absolutely beautiful. She looks like a cruise ship. Truly, though, it is a yachting experience. I love to listen to our guests talk about the fact that they love the fact they do feel like they're on a yacht, their own personal yacht, with their 170, 180, 190 of their best friends. So I love to hear that because that's what we're all about. So again, the deck plan, again, I don't want to bore you with it, but if you notice, it really is contained. It's really easy to navigate through. Deck three, we do have some of the cabins, the AO cabins that John had talked about. They have picture windows. They do not have the balconies. But then when you get on deck four, that's really the main area of the vessel where we have the auditorium in the front. We have a main dining room, and I'm going to show you a few pictures. A lion's share of our cabins are on deck five and deck six. And if you notice, pretty much everything is on deck five and deck six. I do want to point something out here while I have this picture on here. If you look at deck five and you look all the way forward, there's an area where you literally go out at the bow of the ship and of the yacht, and it's called Water's Edge, and it's absolutely beautiful. You're only 30 feet off the water, and you got gorgeous, gorgeous views of the seascape or wherever you're going, and it's pretty awesome. In the aft part, you'll notice we have great outdoor space on deck five and deck six, and also deck seven. So there's a lot of we have for an expedition company, we have a lot of outdoor space. And then when you go to deck seven, that's where you get a little bit more of the dome lounge, and I'll again walk you through that. But very small, very intimate, but absolutely gorgeous vessels. So this is your sanctuary at sea, basically. And the thing I want to point out here is that all the accommodations, again, I don't care if you're in the AO cabin with just the picture window, or if you're in one of our suites, everybody gets the same amenities. You get the cocktail, sparkling wine, you get the in-room, you get the all the things I talked about, terry bathrobes, slippers, cotton linens, everything about it. They're beautiful, spacious cabins. And if you look up on the right-hand corner of the screen, our bathrooms are to die for. I mean, I've been again on a lot of new builds over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. I tell you, these rival those, if not, they're just incredible. Marble bathrooms, beautiful showers, big showers. We've got the water, the showers. We got the rain shower. We got the jets on every way. So again, like I mentioned before, the only thing different, the only amenity somebody's going to get differently is if they're in a suite, and that's it, and that's butler service. So pretty much is that everyone's on the same level. So I just kind of want to show you a little bit about our suite accommodations. As I mentioned before, these typically are the first to go. Very, very spacious. The Navigator suite is our largest suite. It's 465 square feet. They do have oversized balconies. And as I mentioned before, they do have butler service. The Discovery is 445 square feet, and the Journey Suite is 382 square feet. If you're looking at this particular itinerary we're talking about for 26, or any other itineraries that we do, and you're looking at spending time in these beautiful suites, you have to book it early, definitely, for sure. The veranda suites, 90% of our cabins are outside cabins with balconies. John touched on this a little bit. So the veranda suite, or veranda stateroom, is 270 square feet. It's either in the B1 category or B2 category. Again, 270 square feet. If you notice, they do have a balcony, and they're fantastic. We have these on deck five and deck six. Nice balconies, verandas you've got, but again, very spacious as far as, I mean, when I went to Antarctica with my brother-in-law, I'm very spacious, and we still had all these clothes on, our clothes and stuff like that. So they're very, very spacious. Now, I want to point out that again, 270 square feet. So if you go to our category A1 and A2 cabins, they're also 270 square feet. What's the difference? If you notice, is that John had mentioned this a little bit before, that we have a Juliet balcony. So you lose the balcony, but you gain 56 more square feet in the actual living area itself. So you'll have a couple chairs as opposed to just having a couch, and it's a little bit roomier. But again, and to John's point, I personally love the balcony, but I recently sailed in the Juliet balconies, and just to be able to sit there and by your bed and just push a button and the window goes halfway down, It's beautiful, and you kind of do feel like you're on a balcony. So these I love. I love the Horizon balconies. This is John. There you go, John. There's a picture of you. Nice pose, John. Um, but again, as you notice, he's basically outside. It's like he's leaning on a rail. So um, these are great. Of course, in inclement, if there's inclement weather, you can just roll up the window and that's it. So, but very spacious and absolutely beautiful. This is the adventure or the AO cabin that we were talking about. Basically, again, it does have a picture window. No balconies, but again, they get the same amenities. We have two main lounges on board our vessels. First is the Atlas Lounge. This will be the first point of where you'll end up when you get on board the vessel. You'll go right into the Atlas Lounge. You'll be met by a team member, and they'll walk you through any questions you have, talk about the vessel itself, give you some pointers. But Atlas Lounge is typically it's on deck four, so it's on that main deck where most of the activity happens. And it's a great place to have a cocktail in the afternoon or before dinner because it's literally right down the hallway from the main dining room. So very spacious, beautiful. It's got windows on both the starboard side and the port side. So beautiful viewing areas also. This is the Dome Lounge. Again, this is probably one of my favorite. Just because it's on deck seven, it's all the way forward. And again, as I talked about with you, when you go to water's edge, you got that gorgeous view from the bow and you're only 30 feet off the water. This is just as beautiful. You're a little bit higher, but absolutely beautiful. About 284-degree view of the water. Awesome. Again, this is quite popular, especially again, possibly before dinner or even after dinner for drinks. We do have entertainment. Could be a singer, a piano player, whatever. Once in a while, we'll bring in local talent if we're in a port for a long period of time. But again, stunning views, and you can actually go outside and get some great views. This is also where I talked about high tea. This is where we hold our high tea during the course of the cruise. The auditorium is beautiful. It's great. It's great area for, especially if we have teams on board that may be talking to you about whatever destination you're going to. We can seat all 190 guests at one time, so it's a very nice. And this is again on the main deck four, all the way forward. Our main dining room is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It's open seating dining. It wraps around. It wraps basically around. It's like a horseshoe, and it's on the starboard side and the port side. But again, it is open seating dining for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you make your choice. I know with MOAA members, I know there's certain people that maybe have cruised together, whatever. You can always go to the maitre d' and say, hey, listen, can we get these 4 tables or 3 tables pushed together or whatever? But typically in the morning, we do a buffet breakfast, kind of a European buffet breakfast. But you can also order, cooked already, the omelets or what have you, pancakes or whatever. So, but it is open seating. And then at lunchtime, we do have pretty much it's a buffet only, but it's fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Our chefs usually have something at the end, some surprise at the end. When I was in Venice to Athens. We had a beautiful spread, and then at the end, the one they had paella, which was fantastic. So the dining room is beautiful, and again, as I mentioned before, open seating. Now, again, what happens in more warm weather? This is an extension of our main dining room. This is our Porto. It's al fresco, and it's outdoor dining. Great place for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And this sits all the way aft. It's actually connected to the main dining room. It's just an outdoor. Obviously, when I was in Antarctica, we didn't use this, but quite honestly, we did sit out there once in a while and just enjoy the views. Paula's Pantry is just a great idea. It's on deck four, again, one of the main decks. And this is I want to say a to-go place, to go. There's a few seats there, but it's really if you've missed breakfast or lunch, or you're on an excursion or what have you, and you just want to grab something to go, grab grab some of the freshly baked pastries that we have, or a specialty coffee. It's just a very, very popular place. Um, and it's actually very popular. But the best thing about it, it's open from 6:30 in the morning till 6:30 at night. If you just want to go grab a coffee, whatever, one of my favorite things to do is go to Paula's Pantry early, and I walk right through the dining room, and I go right out to where I could sit down and just enjoy my coffee. Fantastic place. 7F Grill, again, is a grill that is out. It's on deck 7, and this is our steakhouse. Again, weather permitting. This is a fantastic restaurant, and there's no upcharge. There's no upcharge for anything that we have on board the vessel, other than, again, if you do the spa facility or the gift shop, you'll have to pay for that. And this is the spa facility. It's small, but it's mighty. It's very, very popular, very intimate. And again, like I said, it's managed by L'Occitane, which is a great company that we deal with. And this is aboard the World Traveler, the Navigator, and now the Voyager. I need to update that slide because the Voyager is our newest vessel. We do have health and wellness, of course, stretch out, works out, fitness studios, and things of that nature. And on deck 8, really pretty much all there is on deck 8 is a track. I think it's 14 laps for a mile. And then we have all the zodiacs that we use when we're in Antarctica. Those are on the aft part of the ship. This is our pool and our hot tub. Again, it's very rare for an expedition ship to have so much outdoor space and to have pools also. But hot tubs are used. Awesome. I mean, they're great things to have. We do bring in visiting vintners on board, or maybe a sommelier if you're into wine tasting, lectures. We also have that we do. And as I mentioned before, we do some free cultural immersions. It typically is one per voyage. But again, this is just something that we continue to do throughout. So I am going to talk a little bit about why we're here today, and that's really about the itinerary that we're doing. And it's really a fabulous itinerary. We're basically starting in Dublin, and of course, most people know about Dublin. Absolutely beautiful city. If you happen to choose this particular cruise, and if you're not doing the pre-cruise, I'd suggest obviously you go there a couple days early and just experience Dublin. It's absolutely beautiful. But basically, what we're doing is we'll actually board the vessel on the 1st of October, and we actually depart. I believe we depart around 6 p.m. I believe it is, and so we're basically in Dublin for the day, and it's a great itinerary where we do. Then we go to Waterford. And I'll talk a little bit about that, but let me just go through the itinerary real quick. Again, we start in Dublin, we go to Waterford, we're at sea, and then we're in La Rochelle, France, Bordeaux for a couple days, and then we go to this really beautiful area called Bilbao. It's in Spain, and then also into Gijon, the different pronunciations, but and the one thing, and looking at the itinerary, it's nice because in a couple of the ports in La Rochelle, we're actually get there at 10 o'clock in the morning, but we do not leave until almost midnight, which is awesome because you're able to experience all the culture of that particular destination. Now we do get into Bordeaux roughly 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but we overnight in Bordeaux, and then we depart the following day at roughly 4:45, and then we are in as I mentioned before, Bilbo. We're in there pretty much all day. We don't leave there until almost, I think it's about 6 p.m. Actually, I'm sorry, it's actually uh, 9 p.m. So you're there again, and so and then we do the last port, and then we're at sea for a day, and then we end up in Porto. So let me just kind of walk you through some of the itineraries and some of the highlights. Again, the Dublin, great destination. Waterford, of course, you know what Waterford is known for. Just a beautiful, beautiful area. Just personally for me, I love the harbors, the fishery harbors and things of that nature. But just a great destination. And so this will be your second port of call. And then we go to La Rochelle, which of course is the thing about it is, I'm not this familiar. I haven't been to La Rochelle, but as far as the German U-boats from World War II, it's an old town. From what I've heard, it's a very old town, contains a well-preserved medieval towers and things of that nature. But it's just a really exquisite seaside restaurants and a great destination. And as I mentioned before, you're there for quite a while. Obviously, we know what Bordeaux is all about. 9,000 wine producing chateau and 13,000 grape growers within this beautiful, beautiful city. And I have been there before, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And this is a great stop for we've done this itinerary in the past, and it's absolutely fantastic. This sits on the northern edge of the Iberian Peninsula with historical ties to the Basque Country, Guggenheim. Again, just great gardens and things of that nature. Beautiful. It reminds me, quite honestly, when I was there, it reminds me of a little bit of Venice, to be honest with you. But again, beautiful, beautiful area. And uh, this basically is the ruins of Roman baths and the botanical gardens that they have. So Gijon is just again a great destination. And then of course we'll end up in sorry that was we're actually going to end up in Porto, and Porto is a great destination. And I'll give you just a little bit of information on Porto itself. The ship will dock in Porto. I get a lot of questions. Well, what if we want to go from, maybe we want to go from Porto to, say, I don't know, to Lisbon. It's about a 3.5 hour drive. That's obviously the capital of Portugal. And so it's about a 3.5 hour drive. Now, if you want to extend and go to Madrid, something like that, that's about a 5 hour drive. But obviously that's driving. There's trains there. So there's a lot of choices if you decide to extend your stay when you take this particular cruise. Um, John had mentioned a little bit earlier about military discounts and things of that nature. So we have a program. It's called Military Edge. It is incredible. It's we up to 20% savings on a lot of our sailings. It's anywhere from 5% up to 20% savings. Now, John has negotiated. I will tell you this for the 26 sailing. He has negotiated the military program. But it's again, as John mentioned earlier, if you decide you want to go on any particular Atlas Ocean voyage and bring your friends, bring your family, they would also qualify for this. But again, it's not on every sailing, but it is offered on quite a few sailings. We do have a program. It's our membership program, and I know there's some folks that actually are going. The folks that are going this year, they'll all automatically qualify for some of our next levels. And John can go into this with anybody that has a question about it. So I'm gonna turn it back to John first, but I just first want to reiterate what we're all about. We're all about you know making our guests happy, and just one thing I always like to mention is that travel changes people's lives, and you know what? It's just a great product that we have. The ships are beautiful, the staff is incredible, and as John mentioned, he usually goes on the sailings, or Mike, and that's why I think it's so successful. Again, having dealt with John for many years, it's a great. I would love to go on this particular one this year, but unfortunately I can't. But feel free to talk to the team over there. But it's just a great product, and we love to be partners with both John and Mike. It's a great experience. Try us out. I do believe you'll love it, and I do believe you'll come back.
There you go. Great job,
John?
Tim.
No,
I like how you
thanks.
shortened it because I went long.
I had to because you went long. So,
I know. Hey, a couple
oh,
of things I wanted to throw in there. Tim kind of alluded to it when we set up the groups. So not only like the Greek Isles, but for the Dubrovnik post and the Barcelona pre, we've already the rates we have on the website already include that military discount. Same type of thing when we talk about when we're looking at 2026 and we have the Reykjavik to Dublin and we have the Dublin to Porto. Both of those cruises already include the military edge discount. We've had people before say, "What's the military discount?" And it's like it's already included in. I will say that our experience has been in a couple of years we've been working with Atlas, 2, 3 years, I guess. Most of the sailings are in a 5%, 5 or 10% range. It is up to 20, but just to be clear, if you call in and you say, I want to go to Antarctica, what's the military discount? As Tim said, not all the sailings have a military discount, but don't be surprised if in most cases it's going to be 5 to 10, not 20. So 20 is going to be kind of a rarity. And I'll be honest, unless Tim wanted to send me a list, I have not yet seen a sailing that has a 20% discount on it, but it may be because of the itineraries that we look for. They do a lot of Arctic, they do a lot of Antarctica, and we have not yet done a lot of business on either one of those. Just haven't had a lot of interest from the MOAA members. So I'm sure there's some out there, but just kind of be kind of clear on that. And then one other thing I wanted to mention, kind of the close. By the way, any questions, go ahead and drop them to Q&A. But I talked earlier about the exclusive onboard events and not confirmed yet for 2026, but we expect to get that any day now. For those of you who read the newsletter, you may be familiar with the name of Guy and Michael Rubino. Guy is a chef of what I would say great renown. He's had his own cooking show on TV before. In fact, I'm a big foodie, so I watched shows like Iron Chef and what that. He did compete on Iron Chef. Battle Mushroom, if I remember correctly. And his brother is a sommelier. They've had restaurants. Anyway, Guy and Michael will be on the Greek Isles cruise. So we kind of have celebrity guests, kind of that kind of cuisine, kind of Epicurean kind of aspect of it. So they will be doing cooking demonstrations on board. They'll do Q&As and those types of things. We have done groups with them before. If you read the article, they have like their own company that's called Live Local Today. And we've done groups with them with MOAA before. What they do is in the one we did, the most recent one we did in I guess September of last year was in Florence. They get a villa, and so everybody, so they're there. So you're basically staying in a villa with a chef and a sommelier who are there, who kind of the reason I think they went the name Live Local Today is literally kind of took you around. Anyway, the feedback we've gotten from MOAA members is they're great guys, they're very personable. We did the webinar with them, so hopefully you kind of saw them during that webinar and got kind of think. So when we talk about these added kind of I guess we call them like events or those types of things. We're really happy. I don't think I've mentioned this yet to the people that are already booked, but yeah, Guy and Michael are going to be on the 2025 cruise for sure. And I would say I'm 98% sure that we're going to get them on the Dublin to Porto cruise as well. They won't be on the pre's or the posts, but just another added thing. If you're not a foodie, then you may not care. If you are, it's just a great additional thing to have on board that, you know, food demonstrations, Q&As, and those types of things. So we're really excited that we can bring them on as well. It looks like we have a question, which is going to require me to put on my reading glasses. Uh, okay, I'm not, that's not a question. Someone mentioned they like the beard. I did notice, you know, I'd forgotten in that photo that it's a couple of years old and that I was kind of clean shaven back then. So when you said, here's John on a Juliet balcony, I'm sure a lot of people are going, who this might be their first webinar, is going, that doesn't look like John at all. Anyway, another question. Hopefully it's, nope, same one, because I didn't close that one. Okay. Well, we're actually right at 3. So I'm just going to, before I turn it over to Tim for the last word, I just want to say again, if you're interested, please give us a call. If you're interested in a back-to-back in 2026, well, if you're interested in the going from Reykjavik to Porto, so the back-to-back, which makes that a 19-night cruise, get a hold of us sooner rather than later, because you absolutely want to have the same stateroom for both sailings, and the ships are sailing out. I think like over half the people so far who booked the Dublin to Porto have actually booked the Reykjavik all the way through. It ends up being a phenomenal itinerary. As I said, we have websites on both of these. You can go through, you can see the itinerary. There is no duplication of ports. So if you do the Reykjavik to Dublin, Dublin to Porto, you're not going to go to the same port twice. Same kind of thing if you do Barcelona, Athens, and then the round trip Athens. There's ports in Athens on Barcelona to Athens, but not ports that are in the signature group. So let us know. I will say that if you're looking at doing 2025 and Barcelona to Athens, Athens round trip, we might be able to get you the same cabin for both of those, but we're literally in a situation where we have so few staterooms left, it might be difficult. So if you're thinking of that for 2026, or as Tim said, had this in my notes to bring it up as well. When we did Greek Isles, the suites went first. There's 8 of them, right, Tim? Am I correct?
10 actually.
10 suites. Okay. So there's only 10 suites. They're very reasonably priced. And so I know that we probably already sold half of those, if not more, on that Dublin to Porto cruise. So if you're looking at getting a suite, to get the butler service, the more room and all that other kind of stuff, let us know right away. I always hate to be that kind of car salesman that's like, oh, you need to book right away. And I'm not saying that unless those two situations, unless you want a suite or unless you want to do the back-to-back and want the same stateroom all the way from Reykjavik to Porto, feel free to reach out to us as soon as possible. We'll get you more information. When I send the video this evening, as I mentioned, you can bring friends and family along. Feel free to share the video with anybody you know might be interested, or the URLs for the website, which will be in the email. So the email will have not only this video, but once again, the URLs. We have websites set up specifically for both of these 25 and 2026 signature groups. You can share that with people and they can see everything they want to see. So once again, would love to have you join us on one of these. Do you handle air as well? Okay, so one question before we let go. Air is an interesting situation, particularly post-COVID. If you need assistance booking your air, we can absolutely help you. You can get your flights through Atlas. But if you've ever done cruise line air before, Atlas is like all the other cruise lines. They are not going to book your flights until you make final payment. So if you're very particular about the flights you want to be on or where you're going to sit on the plane and those types of things, you're often better at doing it on your own. Not to say you shouldn't book Atlas Air, but I mean, it's something to consider. The other thing would be is if you use a third-party site, Expedia, which has bought most of them, but Priceline, Expedia, cheaptickets.com, whatever those are. What we have found is if you're abroad and you have a problem with your flights, if you call Expedia or you call Atlas, the airline, I'll use American as an example. I went on a cruise last year and I had a problem with my flights home from Exuma. You call American Airlines, and if you didn't book through American directly, they're not going to help you. They're going to tell you need to call Expedia or you're going to need to call Atlas. So we've really, coming out of COVID, this has become a real issue of the airlines not really wanting to help unless they absolutely have to anymore, is we recommend people book direct with an airline. So if you call us up and say, hey, I'm going to Greece, can you help me out? Our agents are more than happy to go through with you and kind of help you pick the schedule that you want. But at that juncture, we're going to tell you, you should go to United or American or Delta, whoever it is, and book directly with that airline. Because if you have an issue, we're going to have the same problem you have. Let's say you have an issue and you're on this Greek Isles cruise and I'm on the ship with you with your flight home. I can't call the airline either, even being a travel agent and saying, I need help changing this person's flight. They're going to say you need to call Atlas or you're going to need to call the third-party company you used, which wouldn't be the big issue if it wasn't the time change. So you could have instances where you need to change your flights and Expedia is not open or Atlas isn't open, and then what do you do? So I know it's unusual. It's really a change to how we used to do this a few years ago. If you want us to book your flights for you, you can. If you want us to get quotes from Atlas, we can. But I'm not a travel agent, but if you talk to Steve or Mike or that kind of stuff, they're more comfortable, or I think it's better for you if they recommend the flight and then you can do it. And then the other thing is seat assignments. They become a jigsaw puzzle these days if you've done it. I mean, it's like these seats are free, these are 19, these are 39, this is 89, whatever it is. Honestly, it's difficult for a travel agent to know what you want seat wise. If this one's 19 and this one's 39 and this one's 59, how do we know which seat you'd prefer? So once again, we're here to help. We try to provide a concierge level of service, and part of that is telling people the best way to do stuff. So even if we book your flights, we're probably going to have you go onto the website and book your own seats. However, all that being said, there are some MOAA members that we talk to still that are not online or do not have email. And in those cases, we will absolutely do it for you if you'd like us to do it for you. So that's a long answer to what I think was going to be a simple question. Same thing with transfers, same thing with pre-hotels and all those other kind of things. We're here to help you any way that we can. But in some instances, that's providing direction instead of booking assistance. So, sorry, I took my glasses off. I think it says Jim. Sorry, I shouldn't try to read names without my glasses on. It is Jim. So, Jim, if you have any questions on that, I don't know who your agent is, but you can talk to them. They'll probably have the exact same answer. Is we can provide guidance, but in most cases, at least until the airlines get back to the way it was pre-COVID, where they're there to help people any way they can, you might be better off us helping you find the flights and then you book them yourself. Okay, so now we are over. So we should let everybody go. So you see the email address, you see the phone number, reach out to us. We appreciate you coming to the webinar. We'd love to get you more information, answer any other questions. And we all know how this works. You don't think of any questions right now, and an hour from now, you're going to think of questions. Drop us an email, give us a call. We're here to assist you. Hope to see you on a future signature group. Tim, I'm going to turn it over to you for the final word.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Thank you all for your time and your attention. Again, I just want to reiterate the size of our vessels. It's just so wonderful to see our guests. There's so many new relationships that have developed on these beautiful ships because, again, just the camaraderie, and especially with MOAA, the MOAA component, but really just the size of the vessels and just the beautiful, intimate. One thing I failed to mention, we're casual. Okay, so I'd like to say we're just casual. I mean, it's I could say country club casual, but really no ties, no tuxes, anything like that are required. So very casual atmosphere. So come and join us. Love to have you and love to pamper you all day long.
Yeah, and to your point, when you talk about the ships, I can't rave enough. There's two things we always talk about in the industry. There's the hardware, which are the ships, and then the software, which is the people. And Atlas excels in both. Mike sailed with him in 2023, right? Yeah, 2023, because we wanted Mike to be on the ship before we actually booked an entire ship. I went him on there last year, so both Mike and I have sailed on him. Mike raved about it when he went on 2023. You hear me raving about it when I went in 2024. It truly is. I've been on a lot of ocean cruises. I mean, over 100 in the almost 40 years I've been in this industry. And it is a completely different experience. As I've said, it is more like a river cruise ship than it is an ocean ship because you sit there and you talk about 92 staterooms. The most recent Royal Caribbean ship had 5,000 staterooms or something like that. Maybe it was 5,000 people. Regardless, it's a completely different experience. It truly is. You'll get to know everybody on that ship very shortly. There's 170 people and 170 staffers, and it's just such a more intimate, enjoyable experience, in my opinion. I know some people like the bigger ships, so I don't want to poo-poo that whole idea. But anyway, hope you can join us. Reach out to us. We'd love to get you more information. Have a wonderful day and have a wonderful weekend. Bye, everybody.
Thank you much. Take care.